back to the OnlyAccies podcast here at G4 Podcast Studios in Wishaw. As always, link in the description to their website if you want to start your own podcast or take it to the next level. Joining Brandon and myself is Accies head coach, John Rankin. John, first of all, thank you very much for joining us on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
No, listen, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. When Nick asked me if I'd be able to come on tonight, I thought it was only right that I'd done so. And to be honest, I'm looking forward to hear you have got good banner, so he's better. Right,
very good. Come on, Brandon, very good. I suppose best place to start is your appointment. Obviously, you initially came in as Stuart Taylor's assistant after being at Hearts. So how did that opportunity arise? How did that opportunity present itself?
Well, obviously I was at Hearts at the time. Joe Savage approached me and says, listen, I've had a call from Alan Maitland, Hamilton, I'd like to speak to you. Do you want to speak to him? It became a running joke at Hearts at the time where, or with Joe at the time, where somebody would call him. I would obviously take the opportunity to speak. I knew Stuart from my time at Ross County. Stan as he's known. So I knew Stan from my time at Ross County, albeit I think it must have been 1920 at the time. So a long time ago now. I've got grey hairs to show that, but to be fair, I spoke to Stan, had a conversation with Stan, a conversation with Colin, and to be honest, I only see myself leaving Hearts to become a manager. I had that conversation with Joe before I left, but after having spoke to Stan, and then the following evening, you guys played Kilmarnock. So I was keeping a close eye on the result. I think it was 2-1 getting into the final minute, and it finished 3-2. And I thought at that point, I'll go and help. I'll go and listen, I'm not saying I have all the answers because I quite clearly don't, but I thought it's a challenge that I need to accept to remain a youth coach at that stage in my career, and probably accept that you're going to be a B team stroke reserve coach for a long time. It's not really what I always wanted to do with my ambition, so it was the right time for me to move on. And as the club, it probably ticked a lot of boxes for me at the time, having been promotes youths, works with try to get kids into the next stage, but also the next massive bit for me was try to achieve results by doing so. So that was an important part and imperative to why I decided to come.
And how did you find that transition then from coaching the B team and a first team dressing room? Because I imagine they are two different atmospheres, two different things to get used to, different ways of dealing with players. Obviously, you get more experienced ones in first team coaching as well.
Everybody says that, but see, to be honest with you, I haven't found it any different whatsoever. I mean, I the likes of Popescu before he came here, I'd like Lloyd Demoore, Jordan Roberts when they were on their way out of Hearts. So I was dealing with them, albeit their grievance wasn't with me, it was with a manager. But the only difference being was the results, but I've not long finished playing. So I've always been able to deal with senior players and first team players, and the buzz you get of a Saturday trying to go and get a win and achieve a result was far more outweighing the development side, and the only development side where performances count but results don't really. Whereas coming here, everything matters, and that was probably the biggest thing. And as soon as I joined the dressing room, great bunch of guys, a real hunger to go and achieve, and I've loved it since I've been in.
You obviously mentioned that when you were leaving Hearts, you were only going to do so at the time you thought you were going to go into management. So I went and get told to move forward. So yes, you obviously mentioned that you were only going to leave if you're going to go into management. You came into assistant manage a first team. Did you foresee that this opportunity actually become a manager was going to come so quick?
No, not at all. I thought if the opportunity would have came up, it would have been someone approaching the club to speak to me in another capacity. The managerial jobs that I'd been offered before had been in a capacity where most of them were part-time. One was a player manager role, which at the time I didn't feel was right, and to this day I stand by that decision. But when, as I said, when the phone call came, it became a case of, I've probably seen managers or previous people in my position now where they've went and built a career, and as I said, the roles that I've been offered before, I wasn't right and I wasn't ready. I had to go and learn, and to be honest with you, going and coaching 18, 19, 20 year olds was the best thing I'd done. It gave me a grounding and an opportunity to go and make mistakes, which I quite clearly done. And it was a case of, okay, Stan had offered me an opportunity to come in and help him, which I love doing. I love being on the coaching side. I love being on the grass. I see that as my strength. And then when the opportunity came up in the summer, obviously I didn't think that's what was coming, and I've kind of been given an opportunity which, to be honest, was too good an opportunity for me to turn down at the time, and it was one where I thought, I love the challenge, I'm looking forward to it, and it's something that actually excites me.
See, your time with the Hearts B team, you mentioned that performances matter, results not so much. As a manager of a B team, are you able to implement your own style of play, your own formations, your own systems, or is there like a hierarchy, so to speak, that you have to work with what the manager's wanting in his own first team?
Yeah, being a manager of a B team, you're dictated to. And listen, that's just the way the club works. Every club's the same, where the manager's got his own philosophy, he's got his own style, and he's got certain players to play. Your subs are probably dictated to as well by the time that the first team players can play, which is completely normal because ultimately it's a results-based business and it needs to be around about the first team, whereas under 18s was completely different. You could make your own changes, you could see what was going on, you could try and influence the game on your own way. And it was two completely different things, but two things that I really enjoyed. Sometimes the formation of the B team was actually dictated to by the players that were available at that time, because some of them obviously had to play and get game time. But again, it was a learning curve for myself, and one that I enjoyed, changing my mindset from 16, 17-year-olds to 27, 30-year-olds and trying to get the best out of them. And as I said, their issue was never with me because they weren't playing, it was always with the manager. So my job was quite easy. It was allowing them an environment to go and express themselves and play and get their confidence back so they could go play in front of a crowd.
Is that something which the sort of having all these ideas ready and you couldn't fully implement them, like your own philosophy as such, because they were kind of dictated to you? Is that something which made you there to jump into sort of like being an assistant coach, being the manager here at Accies? Is that something which, because you've got all these ideas building up, you wanted to jump into?
It's like a kid at Christmas, you look for a catalogue and you've got all these ideas of what you want them all out of them. It's pretty much the same. When you're a B team coach or a 18s coach, you get ideas and different things that you see, and everybody sees the games differently. Your opinion is different to mine, it may be different for yours, but at the end of the day, that's why we love the game. But it probably, as I said, it probably allowed me to make so many mistakes, but see, when you're learning, you actually enjoy making them, because if you don't learn from making them, you're never going to learn at all. So going back, when I look at it, it was a great environment for me to go and learn. The club were really supportive of what we're trying to do, but the respect that you got from the kids, because I treated 17, 18-year-olds the exact same way that I would treat a teammate in a first team environment. So they were going into the next part ready to learn, and that was probably the bit where I came here and I realised I love doing this. I love being involved with the first team because they're striving to get a result at the weekend, and I'm part of that, and I'm part of that result, whether it be win, lose or draw.
And would you say, I would say that from the outside we have an idea of the type of coach you are because of the type of player you were, in terms of hard working and your face. Would you say that is true? That is the type of coach that you are? That's what you demand of your players? Yeah,
that's probably the best word you use there, demanding. I set high demands. The players will tell you that. Probably intensity. I'm an intense character on a training pitch, which I don't know. I know Nick video stuff, and you've probably seen some of the videos of me shouting and barking, but
maybe you want to run through brick walls, man, I'll tell you. Maybe you want to run through brick walls.
That's just the way I am. When I soon go on that grass, I love it. I need to buy a whistle, because I'm not allowed any tablets. Well, I don't mean I'm not allowed them. I don't allow myself to have tablets. So I used to get split and sore heads just here when I shouted, so I had to get myself a whistle. Sometimes I think the boys were choking the whistle. I'm that enthusiastic, and it's a passion to get players better. And create that, as I said, create that learning environment, and I think it only drives them. But definitely, my playing style was in your face, aggressive, hard working, roll your sleeves up, and everything you earn you grafted for. And that's the way I hope that my personality comes through in the teams that I put out on the pitch.
I think one comment I saw, I think it was from one of your old players, I think it was Colin Smith. Colin Smith, he says one of the best guys he saw within football. You demand so much, but that's what they need. Is that the sort of respect that you feel you've got with the players currently within Accies as well?
Yeah, the players know there's a line. That's the thing. They set standards, but the most important thing is they set standards themselves, and that's the environment that I'm trying to create, where they know what I'm expecting of them, but they know what they expect of each other. And there's nothing worse than a teammate shouting or demanding than what you want or what they want, and you're not providing it because you feel as if you're letting them down. But when it comes from the manager, it's probably a wee bit more harder to take because they're seeing what the players are seeing. And listen, Connor Smith was complimentary in his comments and saying that's what he wanted. I've had Connor since he was 15-year-old, and I seen him last year in the playoff final playing for Queen's Park and getting promotion. Trust me, it was like a proud moment for me seeing one of my own players, or the own kids as I call them, because that was the first group I had, but develop and go and play first team football. And that's what I want to try and do here, and I want to try and achieve with the kids that are coming through. Like we've seen a couple of them have made their debuts already, a couple have already played, but giving them that environment to go and play, go and express yourself, go and work hard, but go and show your ability at the same time. And I think that becomes important for them to have that trust in me, but the players also to be able to respond and realise I've got their back and I trust them to go and play in the pitch fully. Listen, I wouldn't put them on the park if I didn't trust them. And that's the thing, I trust them fully to go and give their all and show what they're good at and show everybody else what they're good at as well.
If we could just jump back a little bit to just before you were appointed as Accies head coach, there was of course that little period of uncertainty, I suppose, of what was happening in that position. What was it like for you then as an assistant and as a first team coach? You're obviously stuck in that middle of uncertainty as well.
Well, first and foremost, I'm like any other man that get a family, I've got a mortgage, I've got a wife. It was really uncertain to what was happening and what was going on. And obviously, Stuart was coming in and out, and we didn't really know what was happening. I was reading the papers what you guys were reading, and I don't think from any point of view anybody could actually say or confirm what was happening. It was hugely difficult for the players and myself, to be perfectly honest, because we were on the pitch, not knowing what was going on. But at the same time, that was one of the major factors that convinced me to take the job. The professionalism and their attitude throughout that time never wavered. Anything I asked them to do, they done. And obviously my position at that point was completely unclear as well. So when I look back at it, it was a difficult time. But these things are sent to test you. The experience that I got from that stage and some of the things that happened, well, I find myself in a better position because of it. I find myself stronger because of it, and I think it's a time where everybody pulled together because they had to and got through it. And as I said, the players have to take the utmost credit for that time because their behaviour and professionalism was incredible.
That's what I was going to mention there. It's easy for us fans to obviously sort of see this and see the uncertainty and just want clarity on what's happening, but I think we forget at times players have mortgages, they have a lifestyle which they need to carry on doing, and you were in that boat. And is that sort of, did individuals stand out throughout that period, and does that puts a lot more trust in certain players for the season ahead?
Yeah, individuals that stand out at that time, leaders stood out because they dragged, I don't mean they dragged the rest of the group with them. It was a case of, this is our work, we're working for ourselves, let's get through this period, and credit to them. And listen, I love the enthusiasm from them to get through that bit. There's no other time in football during pre-season when you're changing manager and you don't really know what's going on, that full uncertainty, but it never wavered at all. Their focus and commitment was to be applauded. And actually, as difficult it was for myself in my personal situation, it was great and exciting to go in and see what they were going to give you that day. There was boys that were dragging one another through it. Yeah, it was, of course it was tough. There was raw blisters, there was tears, there was sweat, there was blood, there was everything because it was pre-season. Everybody was desperate to do the best for themselves. But also, they didn't know who was coming in. It could have been me, it could have been somebody else, it could have been sitting in the stand. Nobody knew. And it was a case of, at that time, where I go back to the players' professionalism, it was absolutely brilliant to see.
And so when that call did come for you to take that step up, what was that like for you? Were you was there a little bit of hesitation behind it, or was this is something you wanted to do, now's the right time, I'm going to jump head first into it?
No, there wasn't any hesitation. It became a case of, I think it was after the new mains Larkhall day, which, to be honest, everybody speaks about how good a day that was because we went to 2 grounds, the fans were allowed a drink of alcohol, the atmosphere was good, the weather made it because we were able to go for 2 grounds, nobody got soaked, and the football was brilliant, let's be honest about it. But not to be disrespectful to the teams that we played that day, we were expected to do what we done, and it was great to see the kids from the academy come through. The call came that night from Alan, and listen, I won't lie, there was excitement going through me because I thought it's an opportunity for me that I've probably been working towards throughout my full coaching badges. I started my coaching badges when I was 23 because I always denied on being able to take the role. I knew the players, I knew the commitment that they'd given throughout that period. I was excited with what we could do, albeit I knew I was probably delayed in the preparations that I would want to put on my first managerial gig, having said the fact that we were maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the pre-season line. But the excitement was an opportunity that I couldn't turn down. And to coach and manage and lead the players with their attitude and application that I'd seen before me the previous 10 to 14 days, there was only going to be one outcome.
Did any of the shouts of gaffer from the fans that day help you with your decision at all? Or?
No, that day, as I say, the call and the question never came to night time, and it became probably a wee bit uncomfortable and embarrassing with the type of guy that I am, that I didn't really expect that to be the case. I was just doing my job as I was asked to do, and as I said, the players responded to me at that particular time, and they offered the opportunity when it came, the call, obviously from Alan to speak to Colin. It was a case of, I don't think I needed any convincing for you guys shouting gaffer or anything like that. I think it just became a case of, for myself and my family, who the full uncertainty of the 6, 7, 8 previous weeks, it was a case of get an opportunity to go and try and build a career for myself here in a team that resembles me on a football pitch.
All joking aside though, the fans knowing that they were behind you from day one, basically, when you were brought in as assistant manager originally, and when all the rumours were floating about, there was hashtags going about Rankin ball and all that, which is still kicking about. Does that make that transition easier then, knowing that you immediately, as soon as you kick off, you've got the support of the fans behind you?
See, to be honest, this is me. I try and encourage myself not to look at social media, because if you guys get excited, then I get excited. If you guys become down, I become down, so I don't look at it. And it's probably my daughter's at the age now where she's actually looking at social media, and I don't mean concerned, she's either up or she's down, so I know something's going on. So at that particular point, I wasn't too carried away, but then you get the analyst at the club and sports science showing me in Jesus' head and body. It becomes slightly embarrassing, but listen, I can laugh, and I love a laugh and a joke and everything else, and then there became that element of, as I said, excitement for myself, and you guys are obviously speaking, and then people from within the club are saying, would it interest you thinking about it? And I only really had 2 or 3 days to agree. I never really had much time to think about it, because, as I said at the beginning, when that question comes, I don't think it's a case of you're ready to say yes, you're ready to say no. It just becomes a case of, this is what I want to do. And listen, I've got ideas of what I want to do and how I want to do it. And it'll just be a case of time and patience.
Going back to when you've obviously made the... Sorry, then I'll get told to go forward again. I better scooch a bit forward. So going back to when you've made the decision, you've took the job on, is that when you've fully then been able to sort of state and bring your philosophy into it? Because obviously there was a time through the uncertainty where you've been taking training, but was it at the moment where you've said yes is when you were able to sort of change it, or were you just carrying on in the same sort of manner in which you had been already?
Well, no, I was carrying on the same manner that I had been, because as I said, I'm passionate. I set standards on the training pitch, and that's what I love doing. But at that particular point, when the question was asked, then it became a case of me stamping my beliefs and my authority and tweaking things slightly the way I would see it. So that became important for me to be able to do it my way. And I think that becomes important, and the players get a clear view of as well, because you're organising teams for Larne, Humains, Larkhall, Airdrie, that are probably somebody else's teams and somebody else's ideas, because you haven't really fully got the understanding of you are becoming the manager. So as soon as that happened, obviously before the Airdrie game, I knew there was a very good chance of that happening. I don't think you guys were allowed into the Airdrie game actually, but at that point in the Airdrie game I could get what I wanted to do and how I seen it happen. But at the same time, there's no, with the players that are here just now, you have to try and find something that fits into them as well. It's not just a case of me going, right, this is my idea, and it doesn't work with the players that we have, so it has to fit into what we have at this moment in time.
That's what I was going to go into next. I was going to say, is a system that you brought in, is that a system you've always had the mindset that when you became a manager you wanted to play, or is it sort of you're using it because of the tools you've got at your sort of disposal?
I'm using it because of the tools I have at my disposal. Like I went and studied in Holland for 10 days, 5 to 10 days, as part of a licence and how they played and done things. And I seen that as part of what I would want to do. But with the players at your disposal, I think you have to try and find a system that suits them and allows them to go and express themselves at the same time as allows us to be solid in defence and exciting in attack. And it gives us an opportunity to go and play. Now, whether we're able to adjust and adapt to something else as the season goes along, great. But just now it's a case of, can we try and get the bodies that we have, give them a system that they feel comfortable in, and give us an opportunity to win games, because ultimately, I spoke at the beginning, it's about results now.
And before we go on to the questions you're probably dreading the most about transfers, you've still to bring in your own number 2. That's been going on for a while. There's been a few names thrown around. What stage would you say we are at now about getting your number 2 appointed?
Throw the names at me.
Throw the names at
Throw
you.
the names
So
at
the first one, the big one I suppose, was Sean Crichton. Is obviously coaching with the club at the moment, so he was thrown in. Obviously Brian Easton stepping up was another one at the time.
And one that get mentioned on Saturday, sort of the fans came up with a wacky theory that Effie Ambrose is going to come in as the
It wasn't in Douglas Park, it was spotted.
Right, okay, listen, I'll tell you. So, Sean Crichton's under 18 coach. Sean Crichton has still got a burning desire to play.
Okay.
He sees himself as transitioning from footballer to coach, and he's got a lot to offer as a player. Pretty much like myself, probably 5 years ago. Brian Easton is transitioning just now from player to first team coach, and finding time to adapt. Occasionally he'll take some sessions, he'll take some drills, and Effie Ambrose has been using our facilities to train, not in a way for us to sign him, but as Steve Lawson knows him relatively well, and Effie lives in Bordwell or Uddingston, so he has to come in and train. So that's the 3 runners squashed. What's next?
There you go, David McFarlane. There's your answer.
But just on Brian Easton, how is that transition going? How is he finding moving into first team coaching now?
Listen, Easton's been absolutely brilliant. I found when he came in last year, when you play against somebody, you get a feel for him. I always thought Easton was a quiet character, quite laid back, but a good pro. Since I've come in, he's not as quiet as what I thought. He's quite laid back, but he's a great pro. So his transition from player to coach, he might be finding it slightly difficult because of the environment he was involved in the dressing room, still is involved in the dressing room, but I'm speaking to him on a daily basis in the morning, what our plans are, what we're going to do in training, that sort of stuff. I try and leave him out of the team stuff towards the end of the week, because obviously he's involved in that, so it doesn't put him in a predicament in front of the players where they're asking him what's happening the weekend, and he does know. So if he doesn't know, then I'm not putting him in a position where he feels uncomfortable. So that's where we are just now. To get an assistant, I do need help. I've only got 2 hands myself, and I've only got one set of eyes, so I need help. Brian Potter has been brilliant. the backing and the support he's gave me since obviously I became manager has been brilliant for him to do work away in the background. And Sean Crichton's on the pitch at times because I feel as if the club is based on bringing youth players into the first team. But if we're training at a time that the kids are training, how are they going to learn? How are they going to get used to going around about the players? So it's imperative that we get them on the pitch at the same time as us, even if they're shadowing or mirroring what we're doing. But I want noise. I want the place to be exciting. I want the place to be fun. And I want the place to be full of energy. And if we can do that, so you will see Sean on the pitch at times. But as I said, getting that assistant in, getting the right guy in is massive for me and what I'm trying to do. The team beliefs as well as standards, setting standards.
The three that we've mentioned there, they're all still players and they're perhaps maybe looking to be coaches in some capacity. Is that the type of number two that you'd want to bring in? As someone that can be a player and a coach, or are you just looking for someone to be on the sidelines constantly with you?
That's a good question. You think you've done this professionally? No. Listen, the way I am is I am full of beans. From my eyes open to my shut night. I've got too much energy not to be on the training pitch. So I need to be on the training pitch. I need to lead that. I'm hands on that way. Probably because of the way I've spent the last 5-6 years of constantly being on the training pitch and coaching. I'm a coach. I love being on the grass. So having to go and get myself a great coach, it doesn't necessarily need to be that because, as I said, I'm quite hands on. It probably becomes a case of on a Saturday when I'm looking at the game and I'm involved in it. Like Saturday, there's different things going on. Andy Winter puts a bottle into this dugout the side as you're trying to manage that, but at the same time you're trying to manage what's going on. It's another set of eyes which can bounce things off myself, Potsy, and we can go, I see this, I see that, we could change this, we could do that. Just now having one set, it becomes a wee bit difficult and a less of a, how could I put it? It's probably harder having one set because you get nobody to bounce off and I can maybe watch what's happening at attacking half, but what's happening in the defensive half at the same time. Or something's happening with the ball and I'm seeing where our back line is as we're attacking to make sure that they're set up for the transition. But having two sets, it's a case of the two is work together.
If I'm watching the attacking play and he's watching the defensive play, or likewise he's watching where the ball is and I'm maybe watching where the defence is on the transition, it's important that we share the same ideas, because if I'm bringing someone in who's thinking, right, this is a great opportunity for me to be Hamilton assistant, but doesn't believe in my philosophy, there's no point in me bringing a guy in that's got a great name or a brilliant coach if he doesn't believe in what we're trying to do. And likewise, there's no point in me bringing somebody in that doesn't want to play the way that I want to play. So it needs to be the right relationship between myself and whoever it is, and it becomes a case of as I said, I'm quite intense, I'm quite probably aggressive in the way I talk, and I get that. So maybe we need to be somebody a wee bit more laid back and a wee bit more of a calming influence rather than being too similar to myself. We speak about how the youth players are imperative in what we're trying to do. I don't really need someone to jump between the youths in the first team, because that's what I do. I see that as my strength, because I can communicate with the kids. The kids feel comfortable enough to come and communicate with me. So I'm open to options, but I've got a few in my mind that I think would work really well with myself.
All right, and as of recording, the last game was Queen's Park at home. It of course meant that we exited the Cup, and fans for many years have been frustrated with Accies' lack of a cup run. Is that something you're looking to rectify when the Scottish Cup comes around this season?
Listen, I don't want to get caught up in the Scottish Cup now. We're only just ready to start the league season, but on Saturday the overriding emotion was disappointment. Hugely disappointed. I think we missed out with a goal, but it wasn't because of Saturday we missed out in the next round of the Cup. It was because of the two games previously where I felt we could have been more ruthless. Stranraer, we need to be more ruthless at our end, and Forfar, we need to be more ruthless at the other end. Having said that, probably against Dundee we could have managed the game better. Having went 1 down, I felt at half time we started the second half relatively well. They get the penalty, changes the game, or changes the flow of the second half, and then the penalty later on, Eastie's sending off probably reflects differently. But could we have chances in that game to score? We also could have conceded more. I felt in the three previous games was probably the reason why we went out the cup rather than Saturday. If you'd have flipped the two halves on Saturday, we'd have probably come off the pitch in the second half going, we were unlucky not to win that game. But because we started the game so well and we're on the front foot and in their face and creating chance after chance, then the second half became bitterly disappointing in the way we played, and the probably for the players' words, the lack of bravery in possession in the second half.
As a whole, sort of with the Betfred Cups and the pre-season friendlies, what's your sort of perspective of the results, and do you think maybe that time of uncertainty has perhaps hindered where we could have been if that had been sort of resolved sooner?
I don't know if it's hindered it. I mean, like, pre-season's all about fitness and bedding in your ideas. In the first 2 weeks is mainly fitness work and getting players up to a relatively good state of fitness, but to be fair, they all come back in good nick. And then after that, it's a case of trying to bed them into a team environment which they feel comfortable in, and trying to judge where they are and mentally how they're feeling. Because obviously some go through pre-season and feel great, some go through pre-season and feel not so great, but when it gets to the first day of the season, or first stage of the season, a league game, it becomes important that you start the season in the right way. So when I look back at the cup and how we played in the cup, I think the Dundee game was disappointing. I think the players were disappointed by how we played. I think we didn't believe enough in attacking that day and tried to be too safe, and I think we got our fingers burned. I think against Stranraer, the first half, Stranraer came, it's a Jamie Hamill team. Jamie Hamill's going to be aggressive, he's going to be in your face, he's going to try and press. But the second half performance, or the first 6, 7, 8 minutes of the second half, was the style that I would want us to try and impose on other teams. It's about how we impose ourselves on the opponent, and we never gave them a chance to breathe, we never gave them a chance to get the ball, we never gave them a chance to lift their head. It was continuous pressure from ourselves, whether we had the ball or whether we didn't have the ball, and I think that becomes important. And then when you look at the Forfar game, I thought we were good that day, albeit we could have been better. You've got to give the opposition respect at times, because Forfar got up there, but it was their first home game of the season, and they wanted to go and put a marker down, but we got the goals at the right time. But could we have been more ruthless? Yeah, of course we could. And then you look at Queen's Park game, first half, as I said, we came out of traps really quickly, get an early goal, and then it becomes the players look full of confidence and full of belief. The game changes at half time. Queen's Park need to chase it, and as I said, it was disappointing the second half. So we need to get two halves that marry together when we're playing really well. I'm not naive, we're not going to dominate the game for 90 minutes, but I do expect us to dominate for large spells of the game. But it's when the other team are in charge and are beginning to dominate, how we manage that. And if we need to feel an element of control when that is happening, and be comfortable when we aren't in possession and under the cosh wee bit, you can still be in control of that situation.
You already brought two players in now, Doylan and Gandu. They've both made good accounts of themselves so far, I would say, from what we've seen. What are the type of players that you're looking still to strengthen? Because you have said publicly you still need a few bodies in, so we'll ask you about positions later. I know you've avoided that in the press already, but what are the type of players, the attitudes, the type of characters you're looking to bring in?
Well, it needs to be a positive attitude, it needs to be a hard worker, it needs to be somebody that's prepared to work every day, and it needs to be somebody that's not got all the answers. They want to learn, they want to come here and use this as a place to kick on in their career. I want people that are hungry, people that have got a point to prove, but people that want to go and kick on and achieve something in their career, whether that be here or whether that be somewhere else. If it's somewhere else, then they've came here, they've done a really good job, and they've kicked on in their career. So that's the type I want. How do I see that happening? I probably see us being impressive in the early part of the season to try and achieve some of these players, and them actually want to make them come. I think that's important when they see, one, the style of play, two, how we play, and three, the environment they were creating, and to try and attract them to the club and say, I want to be part of that, I want to go and try and achieve something with that side. I think that's important. And the players that we brought in Johnny, who's very comfortable in the ball, can create, makes forward passes, has shots at goals, very positive player. Doyley, listen, you hear him before you see him. Great character, enthusiastic, wears his heart on his sleeve, in your face 24/7. Love it. Those two players, we've lost 10 players, which becomes difficult when you look at it, because you lose Popescu, you lose Ben Stillen, you lose Maka, Josh Mullen, Ronan Hughes, Bull, Joe Hilton, Moyo. So there's 8, and there's 2 more off the top of my head I can't remember, but those players all played a big part in what we're trying to achieve, and to bring in 2, we know we need to strengthen. We're not under any illusions. We're trying hard, we're working hard in the background, but every player or every agent has a story, and the story sounds brilliant, but whether it's true or not, then that's something that's different, and we just need to be patient. But I fully believe that if we can play the way that we can, these players will want to come to Hamilton and see it as a stepping stone and an exciting place to come and build their career and kick on to something. Listen, we need to be a club where people come here. I look at MacArthur, that's years ago. Tony Andrew is the most recent one that I look at and went, come in here, done a great job for Hamilton, made a successful club and moved on to something else. We need to provide players with that environment, that they come here, they strive, they work hard, it's inbuilt, and then they kick on.
I know you've obviously not, you've tried to sway away from positions, but I think as a fan, I think the main position that stands out for me is probably a striker and a centre back.
You've nailed it. But listen, there's other positions that we need to strengthen as well. I mean, as I said, we've lost Moyle, so you need to replace a striker. I think the 2 strikers have started the season. I think they've got 5 goals between them, which is a great return so far. But can they do more? Of course they can. They'll be the first to admit they want to score goals. And you look at the back line. We're short. We need bodies. But as I said, it needs to be a quality rather than just signing players for the sake of signing players. I don't want to go and look at something and go, oh, we'll sign him, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's not good enough. So it's a quick turnover and quick turnaround. I think we need another midfielder. I think we probably need two players off the flank as well. But we're not going to get all 5-6 players that we need. So we need to be patient rather than too aggressive. Sometimes if we're over aggressive, it becomes we don't get the quality that we're looking for. So the patience becomes the major part, and it's just a case of a calmness, because the right player might pop up in a week, you might pop up in 2 weeks, but we need to believe that we can attract the right player to the club that's going to change. Another thing, I think we need space. The supporters are obviously looking at what we can do. If we get pace on the counter in this league, I think it makes a big difference.
I think one thing, so I totally agree with the quality over quantity. I think it's so important that we do that. I think that's where we've went wrong in previous years, but I think the consensus of the fans is they're worried that we're too patient and then we don't get anything. You get me?
I know. I don't think not getting anything is going to be the case. I'm positive and sure with the names and the lists that we have that it won't be a case of we're scrambling at the deadline day trying to sign 5-6 boys. That's not going to happen. It'll be a case of when these guys become available, can we do something? Can we get it over the line and can we push? Would love to get it done as soon as possible, but it's just a case of being patient, taking our time, and see if we're going to bleed young players. The players that we bring in, they can't have a stone in their shoe and all about them. It needs to be about the team, and I'm 100% about we need 11 players that can graft and can work, and it's all about us. It's not about them. And if I can get 10 players that are going to graft and one player that's no one player thinks about them, that's one too many. So it needs to be important that we get the right guys in. And
would these players be loan moves, permanent moves, a mix of both?
A mix of both. I think it becomes... See, when you look at the loan market and we look at players that we're bringing in on loan, you look at it and think, right, okay, if we bring them in on loan and they might leave their club in a year, their club might want them to kick on a year. See if we can provide them with a successful route to the first team, giving them games weekly and letting them progress. They want to come back. and they want to come and play here, and they might go back to, I'm talking about Premiership clubs down south and their kids coming up. They might go down south and go, listen, that club up the road, Hamilton, they'll give you a great chance. They'll let you go and play every week. They'll give you an opportunity to play great football, but it's hard work. I want to go and get a shot at that. I want to go up the road. I want to do that. Then I want to move on. That's absolutely fine. If we can create or get 2 or 3 of those players in a season where you get young players, Johnny Ngandu's one, just left Coventry. Coventry's under 23 captain, get the bit between his teeth, get a point to prove, no played any games, but wants to come up, give himself a good platform, make himself a man, and go and play against championship teams and move, get himself a move. Great. I'm all for that. But what we can't do is, or how I see it developing is, we bring in all the kids and we don't give them any help with experience round about them. So it needs to be both, where when I speak about experience, I'm not speaking about guys that are coming here for the last 2-3 years. It needs to be guys that have played 200-300 games in the middle of their career and they've still got another move in them, and that's coming here hungry, want to achieve, get as high up the league as possible, and want to try and gain promotion through the team and through themselves and producing a performance week in, week out.
One of the questions that popped up quite a lot for us was, will you be looking to tap into your contacts at some of the former clubs you've played at? Obviously, you've coached at Hearts. Is that something you're looking to tap into for these transfers?
I've spoke to guys at previous clubs already yet, and it's a case of I know ex-teammates of mine, and I trust them fully with recommendations, and I know people that I've coached and worked with afore and who I trust on the pitch, and I know what they're like. So it becomes a case of, contacts become important, but I don't just want to sign players off people that I know. I'm quite happy to go and say, I really like him, I want to sign him. But at the same time, I look at players and it becomes important where, use a player as an example, if the left winger last season created so many chances and scored 3 goals against us, we're going to go and sign him. That may well be a weakness we have in the right back area that's caused that guy to score 3 goals against us and create so many chances. So you need to weigh up where and have a look at these guys in different games. I'm all for signing players that I've seen before. Off the video, sometimes you can't see them for following the ball, which the cameraman's job is. But I think I've got good enough contacts, and Alan as well, and other various people at the club have got good enough contacts for us to go and see players and get players in the building. That
was something we wanted to ask about, was how does that relationship between yourself and this football board that's been kind of founded almost work with transfers? Are you able to go to them and say, here's a list of players I'm interested in, or is it a mixed relationship? They come to you and say, here's some players that you can get, what do you think of these guys? How does that relationship work?
It's a bit of both, really. I'm in contact with Alan 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah, that's fun.
He's been really good. He's been great with me, very supportive, and obviously he knows what we're trying to do and fully behind it. David McKinnon's just come in. Again, I'm in contact with him on a daily basis. It's a case of I'm going to them with players, they're coming to me with players. We fully believe and we're committed to bringing in, I go back to that word, quality. We believe that's the case and that's the way to go forward. I think just signing players for signing them, it needs to be ones that are going to come in and push for a starting place. That's important because that's how we become stronger. And it might put a few noses out of joint that, he's signed somebody in my position, but being a player myself, that only made me hungrier because the manager was signing a player and I'm going to prove you wrong. You don't need anybody in my position. And I hope that's how the players look at it just now. It's a case of he's going to make me better. He's going to make me better because he signed him.
That's enough for transfers, and I think we've spoken about that too much. But obviously after the Queen's Park game, Brian Easton's obviously mentioned about, despite the disappointment of sort of going out of the Cup, a real sense of excitement into the season ahead. Can you feel that as well, dressing room?
I feel the excitement. I felt it on Saturday before the game. I could see it in the first half performance, how excited they are, how much they're looking forward to it. And then today we're in and we're ready to go for the first part of the week for the season. And I feel the energy, the excitement, but also the nervousness as well, which is a good thing. I want the players to go into the Saturday with their stomach churning because they want to try and achieve something this year, and that not just before the game kicks off. This is the season. Let's go and kick on. Let's go and be a success. Saturday was, as I said, disappointment. It's probably the only penalty shootout I've come off having won, and you're in the dressing room. The dressing room's quiet, which speaks volumes and where we are. Albeit it was our own downfall that we ended up out the cup. But we've come off the back of three games that we're unbeaten in, so we have to look at that as a positive. We scored 9 goals in those 3 games, and we conceded 3, but not being disrespectful to the opposition in the first 2 games, in Stranraer and Forfar, but we need to be ruthless and hungry to go and kill off teams and make sure that we start the season in a high. I remember being at one of my loan players was playing the first game of last season, and I'm looking at the results to me home, and I'm looking at Hamilton being 4-0 down. I did leave a game early that day, by the way, but Hamilton were 4-0 down, and I'm looking going, wow, and it finishes 4-4. Those are the days where at the beginning of the season players build confidence and build into a season, and it becomes imperative on Saturday that we start in the right manner, in the right way, and by that I mean working hard, grafting as a team, making it difficult for others, and making our home ground what it used to be and horrible for teams to come to.
That was something you actually interested to hear about, because you spoke about that when you were appointed, about as a player coming to New Douglas Park. Did it being an opposition player? So what about that attitude, that atmosphere, what is it about that you're trying to bring back?
I think all of it. I think when you look at when I remember Hamilton and how they used to be, it was a case of the fans were important, because the fans just wanted graft, they wanted desire, they wanted sweat, and they wanted the players to work hard. If somebody gave the ball away, that was fine. It was go and get it back. It was a case of noise because somebody went and won a challenge, and somebody went and put somebody else under pressure, and somebody smashed through a challenge, and the fans were on the players' encouragement constantly. And you're thinking at the middle of the pitch at that time, oh, just let me lift my head, take a touch and lift my head so I can make a forward pass. You weren't allowed to. And see if you managed to skip by one, the next one was on you straight away, and they fed off the crowd. And I just feel that the fans have got such a big part to play in the environment that we're trying to create for the kids. As I mentioned earlier, we've let 10 players go, and we brought in 2. We need to have the pitch hostile for the opponents, but welcoming for our players. And for our young players to come on a Saturday, it needs to be a case they're stepping on that pitch in an environment where they feel comfortable, they're prepared to make mistakes, they're prepared to take the ball, they're prepared to try and pass it. Yeah, they might give it away, but encourage them to go and get it back. Don't be on their back because they made a bad pass. Help them through the game. You're there as much for us as what we're there for you. And it becomes important that we do it together. And listen, I think, and I've said it all along, if you guys can help us, we'll give you something back on the pitch. We just need that a little bit of help, because you look at the players we have at Eastie, Dan, Doyley, Scotty Martin, Chucky, experienced players, but there's a lot of that's 5 players I've mentioned there. But there's a lot of players that have got inexperience in that team as well. They need a helping hand. We need to encourage them to make mistakes and learn from them. And by doing that, they will give us more back than what we can ever imagine, just by having that wee element of trust and wee element of patience where go and make the mistake. They might make a mistake by dribbling at a player and the player takes off them. The next time they might dribble at the player, go by them and put a cross onto somebody's head, which will encourage you to then give them back. And for the next time where they go by the player and put one in the top corner, you're going, whoa, that's just feels applauding him or encouraging him to go and do something. Now, I'm not asking us to be applauding if we're getting beat 3-0 and the players are running and making a challenge. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, at 0-0, give us back, and at 1-0, give us back. And don't get frustrated because we maybe gave the ball away when we're winning 1-0 and we're defending a lead. Encourage us to try and get up the pitch. Encourage us to have a shot. Encourage us to get balls into the box, rather than us sitting in a 1-0 lead in defence, which I felt happened too many times last season. When we're winning 1-0, we're happy to win 1-0. No, I want to win 2 and 3. And that becomes important, and you guys have got a responsibility playing that as well as we do.
And ahead of the league starting, obviously on Saturday against Morton, what would you say your expectations are for this season? What would you consider to be a successful season for Accies in the current state you're in? Obviously, there's still improvements to be made that you've mentioned.
I think our aim is to finish as high up the league as we possibly can. Now, whether that be whatever position, I think it's important that we go into every game believing that we can win. And that's the mindset that I want the players to have. Any game that we're ready to go, we're Hamilton, we want to go and win that game. I think it's a championship. Any team can beat anybody in their given day, and if we can put a run together, you never know where you can end up. But I think it's important that we remain positive. Whether we win 4 in a row or whether we lose 4 in a row, I think it becomes important that we remain positive and believe we can win the next one. And as I said, putting that run together and that momentum in the early part of the season carries you forward to the second part, and it's important that we do so and we get that belief and we play with a confidence and a smile on our face. I think that at times we look head up, we look worried. It's football. Pass the ball. And I used this quote the other day when we were taking. It's a ball, no a square. But let it roll. Enjoy the ball rolling. Don't enjoy bobbling it into somebody. How quick can I get away from me? And there's about 5 or 6 bobbles on it. Let it roll. Enjoy having the ball and passing it to your teammate and passing it back and receiving it and getting it for somebody else and getting it back and playing forward. Enjoy that. Because I fully believe I want to create a style of play where players love having the ball but love getting it back quickly. And it only encourages them to go and play again.
Before we wrap up, we do have a few fan questions submitted from Twitter and that. Brandon, would you like to start?
So first one was, what would you consider as a successful season for the team and both yourself, Per?
Right, take myself out because my time's gone. It's about 11 players on the pitch. So the successful season for us is for them to play with each game with a smile on their face, enjoy what they're doing, and came off the back of wins. We won 5 home games last season as a team. That's not good enough. We need to win more this season, and by the backing of you guys, that becomes important. That 1, we put that right, and 2, we get as high up the table as we possibly can.
Have the board given you any targets to hit this season?
No. There's been no targets discussed. It's a case of finish as high up the league table as possible. We see it last year, where other teams are and how you can climb into playoff positions and how you can climb into a promotion position by putting a run of positive results together. And I think that's important because, as I said, this league is no like the Premiership when there's only 2 teams can win it. This league, anybody can win it. So it's a case of grafting week in, week out, try to win the game, being hard to beat and seeing where it can take you.
Talking about the actual games itself, is the 3-5-2 going to be your sort of preferred formation, or will that change game to game, I think?
That'll move. It'll be game to game, it'll be different. Obviously I've got a style of play that I would like to play, but the system can vary from within that. Just now, as I spoke about earlier, we've got players that fit into that style and that shape and how we're going to try and play. It's important that we get attacking players on the pitch so we can score goals, and by Andy Winter and Andy Ryan in the pitch, the goal threat that they have, it's important that we get them on the pitch in a central area rather than a wider area, which becomes important because they can influence the game and influence the team from those areas. So just now it's a case of trying to get a system that suits so that we can get an attacking threat in the pitch.
Given your experience with the youth team, how would you assess Accies' youth system currently, where it's at, and the players coming through into the first team?
Okay, so I know the 18s group really well. They trained with us for the first part. I look at where they are this season compared to where they are last season. So they suffered a bit the first part of last season because the group was mainly 2006s playing a 2004 competition, which is they're going through lots of different changes in their life at that particular age, and you've got to be patient with that. This season I look at them and they're full of 2006s, 2 or 3 2005 to help them out in a 2005 competition. I look at what we're trying to do and how we're trying to get them through. So it might be a case of there's 2 or 3 of them having to play in an under 18 game on a Friday night. and be on the bench for us on a Saturday. They players need to learn. We can't hold them back to play 10 minutes at the end of a game on every Saturday and hope they're going to develop. They're not going to develop. We need to let them play through the week, whether it be reserve games a Tuesday, 18s games on a Friday night, and have them ready to go and impact a game on a Saturday or being involved. We need to let them learn. We need to make that environment ready. But as I said at the beginning, it's the great work that the academy guys do. It becomes imperative that you guys create the environment for them to transition from 18s reserves into first team football and provide them with that opportunity to go and express themselves and do it freely.
On the academy players, what players do you see being cusp with that regular sort of first team action? The next ones to break through.
Well, you've seen obviously Ryan Oney make his debut, and then he's played the last 4, made appearances in the last 4 games. Chrissy McGinn's done the same. Keane Newbury's come on. Fergus Owens has made his debut within that as well. They're all big parts of the plans going forward, and I think it needs to be the academy top end 18s marry into that. I'm not going to mention any other names that haven't made their debuts because it puts pressure on the guys, and then they begin to feel it and think, oh, why am I not doing that? But the other thing is that with the academy, and I found it for across all different times, because we see Ryan and Chrissy and Keane making their debuts, there's a sense of entitlement from the rest that they think they should be there just because they 3 guys are. Doesn't it work like that? You need to graft as hard as they 3 have grafted to try and get in that first team, and I want to make them hungry, and I want to give them the opportunity in that platform to go and play, and that's going to be there for them. That carrot will always be there for them if they're working hard, doing what they do in the 18s, going and playing against men in the reserves. There'll be an opportunity for them to come in the first team and make an impact and go and play freely.
Question someone's asked us about sort of, there's a few players on the cusp of the sort of first team action from the reserves and sort of under 18s last season that subsequently released this summer. Was that made, or was that more a them themselves, they wanted to go pursue opportunities elsewhere?
What ones are we talking?
I think off the top of my head, Sam Nicholson was the one that was the sort of major one people were mentioning.
Okay, so Sam left just after I was appointed. I thought with that was my decision, and the reason behind that was, and I gave Sam the reason behind that was to go and be an 18-year-old that's too old for under 18 football, to go and play reserve team football for 9 games a season isn't going to help his development. Relate to this, at Hearts we had Aaron Hickey, who was playing week in, week out, and by Josh Doig staying at Hearts, he wouldn't have had the career that he's had just now. So in the best interest of the kid, it was to allow Josh to go and play, and albeit, listen, Hearts may look at it as allowing Doig to go. If Doig wouldn't have been the same player if he'd have stayed at Hearts as what he is just now, because he wouldn't have had that opportunity to go and play. So I don't want to stifle kids and keep a player at 18 here when somebody at 16, 17 been blocking his pathway. So it's important that we keep the pathway open for all those kids who are providing an opportunity with. I think that's hugely important, and I'm using those 2 guys as an example because I previously worked with them, and it can show that if given the right environment where you're going to be given an opportunity, which I didn't feel Sam would be, is he can go and progress his career somewhere else and forge himself a successful career. I think that's important that, one, the parents believe that we are treating their kids with the right respect that they thoroughly deserve and giving them an opportunity rather than just keeping kids for the sake of adding to the bench or doing something else. It's one man's view, doesn't necessarily mean to be it's the right one, but I thought for that particular kid it was the right thing to do by letting him go and build a career himself.
Wrap it up by asking the question, we know the ultimate aim eventually is to get promoted back into the Premiership. How far away do you feel we are at achieving that target?
When you look at the players that we have, I don't think over the piece when they go and progress we're that far away. We need to I go back to my original point, we need to give them the platform to build careers. There's 5-6 young kids in the team round about it where we need to give them an opportunity to grow, and by them growing that will make us grow as a team, and it will get us back to where we want to be. We're not here to survive, we're here to achieve, and I think that becomes important for no matter what player we sign or what kid we try and develop or what coach we bring in. We're here to achieve, not to survive.
Thank you all very much for listening and watching. Really do appreciate it. And as always, John, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it, guys. If you click the link in the description, it takes you to the G4 podcast website. If you want to start your own podcast, take yours to the next level, click the link in the description. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon. I wish.